Today, this study, we are going to continue with our series on the Nephilim, and as we have taught previously, the Nephilim were not some kind of angel-human giant. I've had people in our ministry who firmly believed in that Nephilim teaching that they were the offspring of angels and humans, so we are going to answer all the questions and do a thorough study here so that we hit all the problem areas where people have been misled. In this study today, we're going to show that much of what people are reading, seeing on TV, reading in books, seeing on the internet contains major errors, because the teeth and bones that are being presented as evidence of these giants are actually misidentified animal bones. Now, there'll be people out there who will reject that right off the bat and say, no, that's not true. They're trying to cover it up, but it is true, and we are going to show that today very clearly. We're going to cover the quote evidence, I put it in quotes because it's really not, in the TV program Search for the Lost Giants, and Forbidden History, The Mystery of the Giants. I don't know if anybody here has watched those programs, but I know that I think I saw part of one some time ago, and I think that there are some people who have seen these because they've asked me about this race of giants that don't exist. We're also going to cover this topic, double rows of teeth, double teeth. This is another aspect that the people who teach and say that there were giant Nephilim, they claim that having these particular kinds of teeth was a trait that was unique to the giants. We're going to show the mistake there. Now remember, we had a foundational teaching, parts 1, 2, and 3, that we started this series out with. The Nephilim are not the offspring of fallen angels and human women. We have posted that on our website at www.messengers-of-messiah.org. It is also on YouTube. And remember too, we did a couple of teachings after that where we showed that there are a number of stories about the claimed discovery and destruction of ancient giant skeletons that are false, and we proved it. Remember, we covered the subject of, did the Smithsonian Institution destroy thousands of giant skeletons in the early 1900s? That was a false story. Were biblical giants unearthed in the Golan Heights? That was also a false story. And did the National Geographic discover a giant skeleton? That was a false story, and as you tell, these have been running around the internet for some time. And then we showed a number of fake photos of giant skeletons. So you just have to be aware and be very discerning. And as I said, in this study we're going to show the widespread problem of misidentified teeth and bones claimed to be the remains of giants. And we will also explain the meaning of double rows of teeth, also double teeth, and show why this is not evidence of giants. Our first subject here, ancient animal teeth and bones misidentified as Nephilim giants. The remains of mammoths, mastodons, and woolly rhinoceroses have been misidentified as the bones of giant humans. And then I have a quote from, and let me read what the footnote is here. A very excellent article, 8 Types of Imaginary Creatures Discovered in Fossils by Bess Lovejoy, May 19th, 2015, on the internet. And it's a quote from that source. In Greece, the discovery of massive bones from mammoths, mastodons, and woolly rhinoceroses was seen as confirming the existence of mighty giants and ancestral heroes. Even St. Augustine and the prolific Jesuit writer Athanasius Kircher misidentified enormous teeth and bones from ancient mammals as evidence of giants, and the practice still hasn't entirely died out, and that is a fact. Another example of the misidentification of mastodon remains mistaken as evidence of giant Nephilim dates back to 1705 in our country. Quote, and this comes from, I'm kind of letting you know my sources here so that you know where I'm getting this material. This comes from Wikipedia article on Nephilim, section 4, misidentification of fossil remains. New England Puritan minister Cotton Mather believed that fossilized leg bones and teeth discovered near Albany, New York in 1705 were the remains of Nephilim who perished in a great flood. However, paleontologists have identified these as mastodon remains. There is also a case of the fossil remains of an ancient giant salamander being misidentified as evidence of giant Nephilim. And this, let's see where this, let me give you the source on this. This comes from, again, that article, 8 Types of Imaginary Creatures Discovered. Oh, wait a second, is that correct? Let me make sure here, 3. Yes. 8 Types of Imaginary Creatures Discovered in Fossils by Bess Lovejoy. Oh, wait a minute, no, that's not correct. Let me get my sources correct here. That's where I have it, but I don't remember it being there, but I will assume that is correct then. Let's go back and read it. According to the scholar James L. Hayward, one of the most remarkable cases of such misidentification came from eminent Swiss physician Johann Jacob Schuser, who in 1726 published the 24-page treatise Homo Diluvii Testis. Quote, that's Latin for the man who witnessed the flood. The treatise included descriptions of fossil skeletons found in lake beds near Ehningen, Switzerland, which were presented as if they were the remains of ancient humans who lived in the time before Noah and his ark. The treatise was cited as evidence of pre-flood man until 1787. Later, paleontologist Georges Cuvier correctly identified the fossils in question as belonging to a giant salamander. Now, the misidentification of bones goes all the way back to ancient times. And this quote does come from that previous article I just cited. The ancient Greeks also believed that the island of Sicily was crawling with mythological one-eyed giants known as the Cyclopes. Remember Polyphemus, the one-eyed Cyclops, in the story of Odysseus or Ulysses? As far back as the 1300s, scholars have pointed out that Sicily and other parts of the Mediterranean were once home to an ancient species of elephants whose enormous skulls looked a lot like Cyclopes' heads. The elephant skulls, which can still be found around the area, include a large central nasal cavity where the trunk was once attached, and which could resemble a lone large eye socket. We can see how the ancient Greeks may have been fooled by the appearance of the large opening in the elephant skull if we look at a photo. Now, you really could see how the ancient peoples, when they saw that, they go, wow, look at that tremendous, right in the center, the top of the head. Looks like where an eye could be. So, and this probably could even fool people today, some people today. You know, identifying bones is not so simple. It's actually very complicated in many cases. Now let's look at this program called Search for the Lost Giants. And they have a real big problem, too, with misidentifying teeth and claiming that it's evidence of giants. The problem of misidentified teeth and bones wrongly claimed to be evidence of an ancient race of giants is a big problem in recent TV programs. Search for the Lost Giants and Forbidden History, The Mystery of Giants. Has anybody seen these in here? Search for Lost Giants is a TV series that first aired on the History Channel in 2014. It is based on the erroneous interpretation of Genesis 6:4 that an ancient race of Nephilim giants once existed. There are many problems with this program, not only misidentified teeth, but also intentionally distorted or fabricated evidence. In researching this subject, I found the articles written by anthropologist Andy White and author Jason Colavito to be very helpful. To save time, I will quote portions of these articles that are referenced in the footnotes for those who are interested in the full articles. And I do recommend that for anybody really interested, because they have more information in there. But I've highlighted the what I believe is the most important information for us in this study today. In his article, Review of Search for the Lost Giants, Season 1, Episode 6, The Moment of Truth, December 10th, this article is from December 10th, 2014, Jason Calvuto states, quote, "The show has intentionally distorted or fabricated evidence, selectively edited, quote, quote, the experts to make them seem to support the show's claims, made wild leaps of logic, and finally garnered a roster of unhappy interviewees who feel that the show lied to them and misrepresented them." The Catalina Island Museum posted on their blog that after all the attention the show brought to their museum, they needed to reiterate that Ralph Glidden, whose work the show profiled, produced a great deal of fiction masquerading as fact. Further, Turjay Dal, the gigantologist, admitted that the show distorted his views and engaged him from his sickbed to fabricate scenes for the show with quote, quote, evidence he had never seen but pretended to know. But that pales before the revelation that archaeologist Stephen Mrzowski, who appeared in Episode 3 to evaluate the Goshen Mystery Tunnel for potential excavation, didn't know he would be on a show about giants and is upset that the footage of him was manipulated into making him appear to support the existence of a lost race of giants. On the Fisk Center blog, Mrzowski wrote about his experience, quote, "I was surprised and disappointed to see my appearance on the History Channel Search for the Lost Giants, Episode 3, used in a manner that appeared to give credence to a long discredited theory concerning giants. Who said anything about giants? I thought I was being asked to inspect the Goshen Tunnel and to offer my opinion concerning who may have built it or what it was used for." As we have previously explained, the teeth and bones of mastodons and mammoths have been misidentified as the remains of giant Nephilim. Jason Colavito refers to this in his article. Now, this is review of Search for the Lost Giants, and it's Season 1, Episode 1, which was called Unraveling the Mystery. And Jason's article is dated November 5th, 2014. Quote, "As depicted in the new History Channel series Search for the Lost Giants, stonemasons Jim Vera and his brother Bill believe that newspapers of the 19th century recorded accurately the discovery of the bones of a lost race of giants who once towered over the American landscape. Since 1806, scholars have argued that many of these alleged, quote, quote, giant skeletons were the misidentified remains of prehistoric mastodons and mammoths. Not all, obviously, some humans were very tall. So uncontroversial was this position that even the various beloved newspapers said as much. In 1870, for example, the Memphis Daily Appeal noted that when it came to the, quote, quote, giant bones of the largest size, scholars had, quote, proved them in almost every instance to be portions of the fossils of mammoths, megatheriums. Megatheriums are elephant-sized ground sloths, mastodons, etc. But today the Veris and their gigantology colleagues like Greg Little and Nephilim theorist L.A. Marzulli deny that mammoth and mastodon bones were mistaken for human. Now, I just want to say something about this Marzulli. He is showing up in Christian conferences all over the place and on these programs, and he is pushing a whole lot of stuff, and he is even, I saw his name listed as one of the speakers at a conference that Zev Porat's going to be at, and remember Carl Gallups has joined the bandwagon with all this wrong Nephilim teaching, all right? So that's a real problem, but that name Marzulli has come up, and he's written his books too on this. Let's go back to this quote. "The stories buried in old newspapers simply can't be taken at face value, even when the supposed observers were impeccable sources. And that, in a nutshell, is the problem with Search for Ancient Giants, whose entire premise is that we should take most claims of giants at face value and abstract from them a lost race of giants rather than understand such stories as the product of a biblical paradigm, and I will say a wrong biblical interpretation, that shaped mastodons, above average normal humans 6 to 7 feet tall, and the occasional human sufferer of gigantism into a lost race that never was. Vera is very enthusiastic about double rows of teeth as a marker of giants. But I wonder if this trait isn't related to not just the common dental condition that produces extra teeth, reported since antiquity, but also to the unusual dentition of the mastodon, whose teeth look like a double row of teeth due to their strange shape. Now my comment on this. The reference to double rows of teeth as a marker of giants is a very important subject we need to know more about in order to understand why it is not evidence of giants. As Jason Colavito explains above, this characteristic may be explained by the mastodon dentition, which is very likely in cases of mastodon teeth being misidentified as the teeth of giants. He also mentions the condition of extra teeth in people that's called hyperdontia, which does sometimes occur. However, there is more to the subject that needs to be understood, which we will cover in the following section. This section is called Double Rows of Teeth Are Not Evidence of Giants. In his internet blog article, The Modern Mythology of Giants, Double Rows of Teeth, dated November 28, 2014, anthropologist Andy White explains the actual meaning of double rows of teeth and why it is not evidence of giants. Now, in what I've quoted here, the following are excerpts quoted from the article, and I've added an illustration of teeth in there to help explain this. Quote, "The belief in ancient North American giants is based in part on the numerous accounts of large skeletons being unearthed that can be found in newspapers and county histories from the 19th and early 20th centuries. These accounts are real in that they exist, they were written, and there are a lot of them, and therefore they deserve an explanation. In this post, I'm going to talk about one of the apparent peculiarities of those stories that I've now seen presented numerous times as evidence of a race of giants, double rows of teeth." And by the way, you will see this double teeth, double rows of teeth in books on giants, and by people who are Christians who are pushing this wrong interpretation, and this is part of their quote-quote evidence. Back to the quote. "The Vera brothers have talked about double rows of teeth on each episode of Search for the Lost Giants, and it is commonly mentioned in various books and websites on the subject. Generally, it is stated that descriptions of double rows of teeth appear frequently in the accounts of large skeletons because it was a dental condition peculiar to ancient giants. There were several different phrases, terms used to describe the dentitions of reportedly giant skeletons, including double teeth, double rows of teeth, double teeth all around. These are not equivalent. These same terms and phrases are also applied to numerous cases to living individuals and non-giant skeletons. That's an important part. So in these newspaper articles, they use these same terms to refer to normal individuals. And so this is not something that's peculiar to giants, and we'll see why as we continue this article. First, the term double tooth. Now this is really important, and we want to really understand these three terms. Double tooth was used in the 19th and early 20th century America as a synonym for a molar or a premolar tooth. It was not a mysterious term appearing in dictionaries and works of science and literature in Europe and the Americas from at least the 1500s until the early 1900s. A distinction between single teeth, incisors, and canines. Now we're going to show an illustration of this, okay? And double teeth, molars and premolars, seems to have been based on both the function and the morphology. Morphology is just the shape and appearance. In functional terms, double teeth are for grinding. You know which teeth in the back? For grinding. Your molars and premolars. The double and double tooth refers to the appearance of premolars and molars as being composed of multiple single teeth. Double teeth are larger than single teeth and have multiple roots. All right, so let's look here. Now, just this is a refresher for everybody on teeth, all right? This is the front. You know, you have 4 incisors, right? Then on either side of those, you have the canine teeth. Okay, then you have 2 premolars and 3 molars. Okay? Now, these single teeth, they would call them single teeth, and then they would call these teeth double teeth. Why? Because look at the size comparison. And also they look like they might be a couple of teeth or 2 or 3 together. Plus the fact, especially on the in the upper jaw, they have multiple roots. And the lower jaw, the molars will have double roots, sometimes triple, and the upper they'll have triple roots. So that made, according to them, they were seeing these as double teeth, not just, does this make sense? Okay. And then here, if we look at from the side, going in, here's, we're just looking at the half of a jaw here. 2 incisors, a canine, 2 premolars, and 3 molars. And these have double roots, so this would be the lower jaw. The upper jaw, sometimes you'll see the triple root there. All right, so double teeth, all that means is referring to these teeth here, premolars and molars. That's all it means. These incisor canine referred to as single teeth, and then the premolars and molars were referred to as double teeth. That's what it means. Now, next phrase. Second, the phrase double teeth all around was used colloquially. Now, colloquially just means, expressions in informal speech, to refer to the dentition of living and dead individuals with a high degree of anterior tooth wear. Now, the anterior teeth are the ones in the front of the mouth. So that's your single teeth, the canines and incisors. So anterior single teeth, canines and incisors looked like double teeth, molars, when the cusps, now the cusps are just the pointed and rounded things, projections on the top of the teeth, were removed through wear. In other words, a mouth that full of heavily worn teeth was a mouth in which all teeth were used for grinding, and therefore in which all teeth had the wear characteristic of double teeth. Does that make sense? Because when you wear down those front teeth, they actually look like there's some double teeth in there. All right, so this was a common phrase. 19th century newspapers contained numerous accounts of living individuals described as having double teeth all around. They were all worn down all the way around. Now, what are some things that would cause wear like that? Well, one is diet, right? And according to the Encyclopedia of Medical Anthropology, Health and Illness in World's Cultures, quote, the diet in ancient times contained much grit, as flour or mill was made by grinding wheat or corn on stone slabs. Peter, didn't you find in your property at Retchie Canyon, didn't you find an ancient stone that was a grinding stone? When you were digging up the garden, you actually found this would be Native American, and what they would have used, a base, and then the stone that would go over the, okay, so what do you get? When you grind your grain that way, you're going to get pieces of rock in there, and when you chew that, that's going to really wear down the teeth. X-rays of ancient Egyptian bread have demonstrated significant amounts of grit. Native Americans in the Southwest prepared cornmeal on a stone mano metate, and it has been estimated that the average Indian ate 3 manos or metates in a lifetime. They were pretty large, wasn't it? That grinding stone was pretty large. What are you seeing what it's saying here? It's been estimated that the average Indian ate 3 of those in a lifetime because of that's a lot of rock.
They're usually about this size.
That's a lot of rock.
For your hands, because when we lived in Mexico, we used them at that day.
So they still use them in Mexico.
Yeah, and you grind that.
Right, and it wears down over time, right?
About 10 or 11 inches long.
Okay.
About 8 or 9 inches wide, and then the grinding stone, and then they cut up so you put the fingers on the top stone to push it back.
Well, and like Josie's saying, they still even use that in Mexico, okay? Back to the quote, it is common to find teeth worn down to the gum line. as a result of this type of diet. You know, that's got to be painful, doesn't it? Wouldn't you think there'd be a lot of problems, dental problems, and they didn't have the help we have today? Now, in addition, studies of tooth wear patterns in ancient humans and Neanderthals show heavily worn anterior, and this is particularly important here because we're talking about the anterior teeth, especially in the human populations. And what are these people digging up these ancient skeletons and they're saying, oh, these are giant, they have these teeth? No. It is important to point out that the use of teeth as tools. People use their teeth as tools.
Yeah, they did for leather.
And some people still do it today, opening bottles and different things, which you should never do. But using them for tools for such things as chewing the hides contributed to the wearing down of the anterior, the front teeth. This is very important information to consider in evaluating descriptions of ancient skeletons with, quote, double teeth all around, which is not evidence of giants, but merely worn down teeth in normal individuals. Does this make sense now? Okay. Now let's go back to Andy's, the anthropologist's article. This third phrase, double rows of teeth, and double row of teeth were used to describe simply the presence of two rows of teeth, an upper and a lower. So double teeth all around means all worn down. But double rows of teeth, that's not the same. And double row of teeth. What that means is you just got your uppers and you got your lowers. And you got a full set on the top, and also it can be on, if you have two rows, you got full set, upper and lower. These phrases were commonly applied to both living individuals and non-giant skeletons. Andy's conclusion, quote, I can collect and present an immense amount of contextual historical data that will demonstrate that in the large majority of cases, the writers of the 19th and 20th century accounts of, quote, quote, giant skeletons were not intending to imply that those skeletons had dental features unlike those of other humans, such as two sets of teeth arranged in concentric rows. They were simply describing characteristics of the teeth that were interesting or somewhat noteworthy. Full sets of teeth, in other words, double rows of teeth, would have been something to remark about in the mid-1800s, as would a uniformly high degree of tooth wear, double teeth all around. The term double tooth and its associated phrases appear to have fallen out of common use in the early 20th century. I think that it was probably combined changes in diet, dental health, and dental medicine that caused the folk classification of single and double teeth to become less useful. For whatever reason, those double terms went away. When we see the phrase double teeth all around now, just 100 years later, it is foreign to us and seems to imply something bizarre. It did not when it was used. Now that's the end of Andy's, the anthropologist's quote. Now we're going to go back to that the TV program, Search for the Lost Giants, and see where they have deliberately fabricated what they call evidence, which is, to me, quite awful, because it's something deliberate. In his article, The Modern Mythology of Giants, Why Is It So Hard to Tell the Truth, dated November 30th, 2014, anthropologist Andy White exposes deliberately fabricated evidence for the existence of giants presented in Search for the Lost Giants. Quote, on the most recent episode of Search for the Lost Giants, The Giant Curse, Season 1, Episode 4, a visitor named Turjay Dal explains his theory that giant humans from Asia sailed across the Pacific and interbred with Native Americans. And by the way, that Marzulli, that Christian that's going to the Christian conferences speaking on the subject, that's what he's claiming too. He claims that the Nephilim that were in the land of Canaan, which were not giants, but he says they were giants and that they fled from the Israelites and came to North America and interbred and produced all these giants. So see, this kind of erroneous material has really infiltrated the Christian some of these Christian conferences with these speakers. So this guy, he explains his theory that the giant humans from Asia sailed across the Pacific and interbred with Native Americans, giving rise to the prehistoric giants of the New World. His theory involves the Denisovans, a recently discovered population of hominids that lived in Siberia about 41,000 years ago. The Denisovans are known only from a few bone fragments found in Denisova cave, a finger bone, a toe bone, and 2 teeth. Dahl produces a tooth that he says is a, quote, quote, a replica of the tooth from the Denisova cave. It is a large tooth. Dahl says, they thought at first it was a cave bear tooth, but it's not a cave bear tooth. It's a human tooth. It's a replica of that tooth that was found inside a Denisova cave in Siberia. Actually, it's neither. It's neither a human tooth nor a replica of the Denisovan molar. It's not even close. We're going to show the figure here below. Let's explain it. The figure shows the tooth from Denisova cave. Okay, let's take a look at it. All right, there's the human molar from Denisova cave. The top, looking at the top, and then here you see from the side in the roots. The tooth from... All right, and that image, by the way, is taken from the 2010 Nature, that's a big science publication, paper by Reich et al. And some screen captures of the tooth that Dahl presents from the program. The tooth from the Denisova cave is clearly a human molar. Take a look at it. That's a human molar. You can tell it is. Dahl's tooth is clearly not. Look at it. Look at the difference between those two. He's claiming this is a replica of this. And this guy is supposed to be some expert guy that studies giants. And he is claiming this. This is a big problem. These are not the same as you can clearly see here. So Dahl's tooth is clearly not. It has been many years since I've done any faunal osteology, but my guess is that Dahl's tooth is a deciduous premolar or molar from a horse or something similar. I think that's pretty scandalous to have something like that on a History Channel program, and they're not even vetting any of this. The purpose of Dahl presenting this quote-quote replica tooth is to make a point about the physical size of the Denisovans. A very large tooth must have belonged to a very large individual, right? Well, see, Dahl is saying there's a connection between these Denisovans and the giants, and that tooth is very large. Well, yeah, if it comes from a horse, it's going to be larger than a human. But now, Andy White, who's an anthropologist, is going to make a very good point here, that tooth size does not necessarily reflect the size of the animal or the human. Well, not really. While it seems to make logical sense, it's not necessarily true. Though not as large as Dahl's animal tooth, the actual tooth from Denisova is remarkably, for its size, falling outside the known range of second and third molars of contemporary Homo sapiens. That's us. We are Homo sapiens, modern man. And Neanderthal populations. That does not necessarily mean that the tooth's owner was an enormous person, however. Massive molars were part of a specialized adaptation for a diet that required heavy-duty chewing. The transparent misrepresentation of the animal tooth as a replica of the tooth from Denisova cave should trouble anyone who wants to claim that Search for the Lost Giants is a program built on legitimate inquiry. Do the producers of the show take any steps to check facts and vet guests before they send the CGI team to work? Did no one notice that the replica tooth probably belonged to a horse? We have another program here, another TV program, and this has aired on the American Heroes channel. It was produced in Britain and aired in Britain, and then later aired on American Heroes channel. And American Heroes channel has a lot of good programming, by the way. It's called, the series is Forbidden History, The Mystery of the Giants. And here you have, here again, we have the same problem, misidentified animal teeth presented as evidence of giants. And Andy White, the anthropologist, has another article, The Giant's Teeth from Sardinia, dated April 5th, 2015. And he's reviewing the TV program Forbidden History series, the episode The Mystery of the Giants. That was season 1, episode 4. showing that the teeth claimed to be giant teeth from the island of Sardinia are actually misidentified animal teeth. So as we go through here, it's a quote, and what I have in bold is I've added it. Sardinia is a large island west of the Italian peninsula. Human occupation of the island dates to at least the Upper Paleolithic. Paleolithic is the Old Stone Age, 50,000 to 10,000 years ago. And Neolithic, which is New Stone Age, 10,200 BC to 4,500 to 2,000 BC. And Bronze Age, which is around 3,300 to 1,200 BC. Okay, so you have these peoples, all these peoples building these stone constructions on the island, some of which were megalithic, the very large stones. There is a current folk belief in ancient giants in Sardinia that appears to have a lot in common with the situation in North America. The only purported physical evidence of the remains of giants in Sardinia that I have come across is teeth. I found 4 examples, 2 from the Forbidden History episode, and 2 promoted by a UFO enthusiast trying to insert extraterrestrial visitors into Sardinia's prehistoric past. In the first 2 of these cases that I discuss, it is asserted that the teeth are human, but we are not permitted to actually see the tooth in detail. Based on what is shown, the teeth do not appear to me to be human. In the other 2 cases, just like the quote-quote replica of the Denisovan tooth shown by Search for the Lost Giants, the teeth don't look anything like human teeth. Anyone who knows anything about teeth wouldn't mistake them for being human. So let's take a closer look at each one of these examples here. Tooth number 1 donated by a farmer. And you can see it here. That's the tooth that we're talking about. You can see the roots and you can see the top. It's a good-sized tooth. The first tooth is shown to us on Forbidden History beginning about 24 minutes into the episode. The farmer claims it's a giant's tooth. The screenshot below shows the best view we are given of the tooth. We never get to see the occlusal surface, the part of the tooth that comes into contact with other teeth. So all we have to go on are the shape and proportions of the crown and the roots and the fact that there are 3 roots, which you can see there, 3 roots. In the human dentition, the first and second maxillary molars, now that's the grinding teeth on the upper jaw, are the only teeth that routinely have 3 roots. See, this one has, as we showed, 3 roots. Sometimes mandibular, and the mandible is the lower jaw, molars have 3 roots instead of the usual 2. Anyway, based on what we are shown, it appears to be unlike any human molar tooth I have ever seen. The crown appears rather tall, and the proportions in the crown and the roots just don't look right. So let's go back to that. It doesn't look human. No, it doesn't. I suspect anyone with a rudimentary knowledge of comparative dental anatomy would be able to quickly identify this tooth to the family level. In other words, whether it belonged to a cow, a deer, a pig, etc. While looking at the cusps. Maybe that's why the TV show doesn't actually let us see the occlusal surface. Number 2, the testimony of a dentist. Now, you would think a dentist might be good in identifying teeth, but guess what? They aren't. And they know nothing about other animal teeth and all that, so they really are not, they're not the type of person that you want identifying teeth. The second tooth, actually a set of teeth, is also shown to us by Forbidden History beginning about 30 minutes into the episode. Let's take a look at it. There it is, right there. The host interviews a dentist who claims to have analyzed a piece of the bone containing 3, quote, very big molars, end quote, reportedly recovered from one of the, quote, quote, giant's tombs. We are later told that the actual specimen is no longer available, having mysteriously disappeared after being given to the university in Cagliari. So we are left with the dentist's recollections and a video taken while he was analyzing the specimen. So there it is again. The bone fragment appears to be a part of a mandible, lower jaw. So you can see the lower jaw and then the teeth. the tooth. We don't get to see the fragment with the scale or in a good quality photograph, but the dentist states that one of these teeth was 30 millimeters and another was 35 millimeters. What we are shown of the video is so poor that it is hard to tell anything about the teeth. The light is bright and most of the detail is washed out. The teeth appear to be bunodont, crowns that have rounded or conical cusps, which you find in the molars of omnivores such as humans, pigs, and bears. Since we never get a good look at the cusps, it is hard to say what creature these teeth belong to. Based on looking at some publications on European fossil pigs, I'd say a pig is a reasonable guess. Again, it's hard to fathom why there is no single good, well-lit, scaled photo of this specimen that could be shown. If I was given a piece of evidence that I thought would change history, I'm pretty sure I would take a picture. I'm certainly not buying this as a human job based on what I saw on Forbidden History. How are we doing on our time? Good. Tooth 3, authenticated by a UFO journalist. Now, the reason this is in here is because we have to understand that Christians see it as angels interbreeding with humans to produce these angel-human giant Nephilim. But the people who don't believe in the Bible, don't believe in God, don't believe in angels or any of that, or fallen angels, what they say that these, the ones that reproduced with the humans, were extraterrestrials from other places out there. All right, now that's the same line that you hear, when you watch the ancient astronauts program. They believe that what the Bible is talking about are ETs from other planets that are other places. They do not believe that they are fallen, that there's such a thing as angels, God, and all that. So anyway, that's just something to be aware of. So this third and fourth example are from this UFO enthusiast, Paola Harris. The third tooth is touted as a, quote, giant's tooth on the website of the UFO enthusiast Paola Harris. It's nothing of the sort. It's an animal tooth that very clearly shows a pattern of enamel ridges looping around the occlusal surface and protruding from the dentine. This is called a lophodont or secondont tooth and is found in a wide variety of herbivores, including horses, rhinos, tapirs, cows, and deer. Humans do not have these kind of teeth. And there it is, clearly. That's clearly an animal molar. And that is, there's nothing like that in any human. No human has a tooth like that. And look at the size. Look at the size, and of course we don't have scale here, but look at the root. The image of the tooth I show here is cropped and adjusted to bring out the cusps. Okay, so see the ridges, all the elevations here on the top, the crown. The cusps pattern more clearly. I don't know exactly what creature we're looking at here, but I can tell you with 100% confidence that this is not a human tooth. Someone with better skills in comparative dental anatomy will be able to identify this easily from the photo. And tooth 4, he calls it another Paola Harris special. Paola Harris' website also features a photo titled Giant Jawbone that is apparently supposed to show the jawbone of a human giant. It is part of a mandible, the lower jaw, with portions of 3 teeth visible. Let's take a, oh, goodness sakes, don't I have it here? Well, we're going to look this up. I think we're going to have some time to look that up, because apparently I lost that when I brought it over from my working manuscript. It is part of a mandible, lower jaw, with portions of 3 teeth. The bone and teeth are in poor condition, but the high-quality photograph makes it apparent that the specimen is not human. The morphology of what's left of the teeth suggests, again, some kind of large herbivore. That's a plant-eating animal. Now, let's finish this, and then I'm going to go back and look up and see where that illustration is that I missed when I carried it over into this document. As we can see, there is no credible evidence for the existence of an ancient race of giants. There is also no biblical foundation for the existence of giant Nephilim, as we have clearly shown from the Word of God. Now, let's go to the internet. We have time here today. And let me look up the article. Just give me a moment to do that. Actually, we can go to Andy White. We might even be able to get his website. Well, let's put in Andy White, anthropologist. I hate that when that happens, whatever happened here. Andy White, why is that still coming up? Here it is, Andy White, Anthropology. There's a lot of really good articles on this site. There's Andy White. I'm an anthropological archaeologist with interests in hunter-gatherers, lithic technology, human evolution. Of course, he believes in evolution, we don't. And complex systems theory. Okay, now let's just see. Forbidden, that's the modern mythology of giants. Which one do I want? The mystery of the giants. Okay, let's go ahead. We'll actually type in the let's see if we can get it this way here. Okay, see, this is the article, and this is what I was quoting from. It's the giant's teeth from Sardinia. This is a monolithic structure, one of those monolithic structures they mentioned, and there's that tooth again, and there's that tooth, and there's that tooth. Okay, here it is right here. Let's see if we can make this, can we make this a little larger? Is that the one that I hit? Yes, okay. Okay, there, all right, now that is really strange. Okay, so it says here, part of a mandible with portions of 3 teeth. Well, it looks like a tooth, and I don't know if that's a tooth. The bone and teeth are in poor condition. Yeah, they're really in poor condition. But the high-quality photograph makes it apparent that the specimen is not human. The morphology of what's left of the teeth suggests, again, some kind of large herbivore. Since we have time, let's read the rest of this because it's kind of good and we have time. So, the opening of this episode of Forbidden History. Let's see if I can make this a little larger here. Does that kind of show up better? The opening of this episode of Forbidden History features the host riding in a helicopter in order to ask why so many ancient cultures have tales of giants. Okay, I want to answer that question. Why are all these stories from ancient times about the giants? Well, in some cases, perhaps these ancient peoples dug up these bones, and they were gigantic, and gigantic teeth and gigantic leg bones, and they believed that this was a race of giants. That could be one explanation. Another explanation that could work into it is most of the people living in the ancient times were pagan peoples, and they did worship the pagan gods, which we know are the fallen angels, the demons. And these fallen angels and demons can appear. And by the way, God's angels can appear also. And if you ever read or see accounts of people who have actually encountered angels, and I'm talking about God's angels here, or for example, in the history of Israel, ancient and modern, angels appeared. And they are usually described as being over 7 feet tall. They're tall, they're giants. But they're just look just like a human being. So, there actually was a case too that was reported that Russian cosmonauts, when they were in space, actually saw enormous, gigantic, beyond belief angels, angelic beings around their craft. And if I do more on angels and stuff like that, I'll cover that. But these were way beyond. These were like hundreds of feet tall. We're talking about immense. And maybe that's where some of this stuff comes from that's in the book of Enoch with these unbelievable sizes of giants. We have to understand there is a spiritual realm. There are angels, there are God's angels, there are fallen angels, and they can manifest and they can appear. And the ancient pagan peoples would have encounters with these beings, and those that it's quite possible that some appeared to them just like God's angels appeared to people and they were 7 feet tall. These other ones with the pagan peoples, they could appear and be just as tall, even bigger. So where do these stories that come all over the planet from ancient times about giants? Well, there could actually be explanations for that. One, the bones they found and thought that they looked like human giants. And then the other is actual encounters with angelic beings, whether they be God's angels or the fallen angels. And then they would certainly believe in them because they would have seen them. But what we have to understand is that it is not evidence that fallen angels had sex with human women and produced these Nephilim giants. That's the big difference, okay? So let's go back to this quote. Why? So many ancient cultures have tales of giants. Accompanying this question is a montage of well-known fake photographs of giant skeletons. And remember, we showed a lot of those last time that have been passed around the internet for years. That pretty much sets the tone for what follows. At one point, they even show someone posing with Joe Taylor's femur sculpture. Remember it? We showed it, okay? This program, like Search for the Lost Giants, could do a lot more, quote, quote, discovery of the truth if they spent more money on paleontologists and less money on helicopter rides. If they wanted to identify the teeth, they certainly could have, at least the one that the host was holding in his hand. Here's a tip for all you, quote, quote, truth seekers out there. Learn something about your subject matter, or ask someone who already knows something. Dentists and physicians are not your best bet either. Neither typically needs to recognize and identify bones and teeth outside the human body. Why would they? And neither usually has even basic training in how to do that. Variation in animal teeth has been studied for a long time, and there are plenty of archaeologists, anatomists, and paleontologists who know a lot about the teeth of various animals as well as the teeth of humans. These people, unlike dentists, physicians, and coroners, can recognize and identify remains that are not human because they are, one, actually trained to first ask the question, is it human? And two, equipped with practical knowledge of how to answer that question. I have nothing against farmers, journalists, TV producers, dentists, and UFO enthusiasts, but I do not trust their determinations of what's a human tooth and what's not, and neither should you. If this is the best evidence giant enthusiasts can offer for Sardinia, it's probably time to move on. So, I just want to reiterate here. We need to really use critical thinking and analyze and evaluate things in our logical brain that God gave us. And unfortunately, because of the King James Version and other versions of the Bible that translate in Genesis 6, Nephilim, giants, and this is so widespread throughout Christianity, this wrong teaching, this makes these people so open to believing this, because in their minds they believe the Bible says there was this race of angel human giants, and they are ready, man, to grab onto anything that is going to be, wow, here's the proof. This proves the Bible. No, we don't need this junk to prove the Bible. But what we need to understand is the correct interpretation, and understand that angels do not have sex with human beings. They are spiritual beings. They are not physical. And then, of course, the other aspect of this that's a big danger is that these people who don't believe in God, the Bible, or angels, or demons, or anything else, are claiming that these are beings from other places, ETs from other places, and they had sex with humans, or they actually helped create humans and directed the evolution and tinkered with the DNA of humans, and this is all real dangerous air. That's getting off into really dangerous air. So the truth is very important on this subject. The truth is always important on any subject. And we need to be very careful that just because we read it in a book, just because it's on TV in a video or on the internet, does not make it true. Okay? So we just, and today there's so much out there that's false, but you know what? The world has always been like that. But today, the false stuff spreads so quickly because of the internet and everything else. It just spreads like wildfire. So are there any questions before we close this? Now the next teaching, what I'm planning to do is we're going to go back to the Bible, and we're going to cover the Anakim and the Rephaim, because these are also subjects that need to be covered dealing with giants, because the Anakim and Rephaim are claimed by these people who believe in Nephilim giants to be giants, the Nephilim giants. So we do need to go back to cover that subject, and then we will also cover about Goliath. And Goliath was not a Nephilim. Goliath was a human being who was, we know how tall he was because it is in the Bible, but he's clearly one of these people who had probably a problem with the pituitary and growth hormone, and we will go into that and cover, we're going to cover actual human giants, because there are actual human giants, and some of them are really, really tall. So we're going to go into that as well next time, if it all goes according to my plans. With that, we'll end the teaching today.